Hello, Guilty Feminist. This is Deborah. I'm coming to America. The first show of the tour will be at Gramercy Theater in New York on the 4th of January. And tickets are on sale now. Go to guiltyfeminist.com for all the details. They're going fast. More dates are coming soon, but the faster this one sells, the more dates they'll put on. So if you're in New York and you want to see the Guilty Feminist live, book today. I'm a feminist, but... Today, our fabulous guest, all the way from the United States of America, is Jena Friedman. And I wanted to make like a cool Instagram picture to let everyone know the show was happening because it's the first day of the Fringe. And when I searched Google Images for Jena Friedman, I found the most beautiful, elegant, sexy picture I'd ever seen of Jenna sort of like doing that with her hand, and then she had a necklace in her mouth. And so I was like, obviously I want to use this picture, it's really amazing. But then I was like, I don't want Rosie Jones and I to have ordinary pictures next to this. So I searched for sexy pictures of me and Rosie Jones on Google. True story. It's the first time I've ever done it. It was enlightening.
I'm a feminist, but when I recently got a tattoo to celebrate how gay I am, I had my pick of all the tattoo artists, and I picked the one woman because she had great tits.
No. I'm a feminist, but when I searched Rosie Jones sexy images, you're the only person that knows what's coming.
Yeah.
I haven't told Rosie this, but she knows what's coming. Yeah. I discovered that Rosie Jones is also a different person who is in fact a glamour model. And her pictures were very hot. And I spent a nice amount of time like looking at these incredibly sexy pictures, which were I just needed to be clear that it wasn't this Rosie Jones that I was looking at, but it was a Rosie Jones, and I did not leave the page for some time. I did eventually find a very hot picture of Rosie Jones by putting in Rosie Jones comedian sexy. And there was one of Rosie going, oh.
Deborah, if you want a sexy photo of me, I got loads.
Right, thank you. Thank you. I could have just DM'd you, actually, and gone, you up?
Oh, I'm always up.
No, I know. I know you are. I know you are.
I'm a feminist, but I put women into two categories because you got your main courses and then you got your snacks.
Not okay. Not okay. Out of interest, though, although it is not okay, which one am I?
Well, you, Deborah, you're the main course.
Thank you. I was just checking.
But I will treat you like a snack.
Not. What does that entail? Just out of...
Later.
Sure. Yeah.
Later.
More of a conversation for the bar. I'm a feminist, but when I Googled Deborah Frances-White sexy, First time I've ever done, I've not thought to do it before, I would have obviously, but the first time I've ever done that, Deborah Frances-White, Sexy, I was very disappointed with the selection. And there was like some really old pictures of me from like previous cheesier Edinburghs, you know, and I was like, no, this isn't okay. So I just took a sultry selfie of me with bed hair and put that into the official promo pic. Now, if you go there on Instagram after this show, you will see that it is fine and that I am extremely pleased with the results. But on the grounds of that, my next official photo shoot for comedy, I've decided, is going to be a lot hotter. Prepare yourselves. And if there is a feminist photographer out there who would like to take the pictures, please email guiltyfeminist@gmail.com. And if there is an unfeminist photographer who would like to take some too, just to see the comparison, obviously I'm open to offers.
I'm a feminist, but recently, when I was asked to write a sex scene for Gillian Anderson.
Were you asked? Define asked, Rosie.
I was! AKA the ultimate snack.
I don't think it's how she defines herself, but continue.
It is. When I handed it in, the channel came back and said, we can't use the sex scene because it's too dirty. Also, it was weird. When halfway through the scene, that girl with cerebral palsy jumped out of that wardrobe and got stuck in.
No. Are we ready to start the show? Then welcome to the Guilty Feminist from the Edinburgh Fringe, live at the Pleasance Grand! Hello. This is The Guilty Feminist, the podcast in which we explore our noble goals as 21st century feminists and the hypocrisies and insecurities which undermine them. Today's theme is freedom of speech, and my co-pilot is Rosie Jones!
Hiya.
Hello. So, Rosie, how are you?
I'm really good. I'm at the Edinburgh Fringe.
We all are, Rosie. That's by definition.
Oh,
Yep.
I haven't had a meltdown
It's day one.
yet.
It's day one. If you're listening at home, it's day one.
There's time.
There's so much time for a meltdown. Yeah, the average Fringer comedian will have, I would say, 4 to 5 meltdowns.
Oh no, I have like 18 to 19.
Yeah, well, that's good too, because the more you have a meltdown, the more you get it out.
Yeah.
It's exfoliation, basically.
Yeah.
It's like emotional exfoliation.
Yeah.
Important at the Fringe. If you're doing a show at the Fringe, it's a very emotionally taxing thing. I know if you've got a real job, you probably think you work an hour a day and then you drink with your friends. That is accurate. That is accurate, yeah. I don't know why it feels like such hard work when evidently it isn't. But it does. It feels like, you put your soul on a plate, and then sometimes you've got, half an audience of people just staring at you, and then someone is a reviewer for a student newspaper, completely misunderstands what you're doing and gives you 3 stars, and then you cry about it like it matters. It's on a website no one's ever heard of called I'mAcunt.com. I just don't know. Why do we care?
Deborah, what we need to remember is we are living the dream. I work for an hour a day. I talk about myself.
Yeah.
And I always get a shag out of it.
Now, Now, that brings us on to, you're not obliged. That's...
You are.
No. Hashtag consent. Consent. We're very big on consent. Now, that brings us on to freedom of speech, Rosie.
Oh,
something that I feel you abuse. Now, it's so good that we live in a democracy, but...
But see, the thing is, I'm a lady.
Yes.
I'm disabled.
Sure.
And I'm gay.
Yeah.
So in terms of democracy, I'm right at the bottom of the pile. So I can say whatever the fuck I want.
Yeah.
I have been silenced for too long. Maybe for the right reason.
Sure. The thing about actually what you're doing, I'm obviously joking when I say you're abusing your freedom of speech. You're doing something I think that's extraordinary for disability rights, and you're doing it with such verve and naughtiness and joy that is incredible. But you're one of the only comedians ever on this podcast that I've had a formal complaint about. Like a long... Yeah, it's true. You don't need to be so happy, Rose.
Oh, I am the bad boy of the Guilty Feminist.
You very much are the bad boy of the Guilty Feminist, yeah. It's like she scored the winning goal in the World Cup there. It's just like... So, do you want me to tell you what it was?
Yes!
I didn't bring it up at the time because, sometimes people write in and I handle, whatever it is. Sometimes I pass it on if it feels valid. But I felt on this occasion that the person who'd written in with very good intentions had misunderstood the power dynamics of the joke. She hadn't misunderstood the joke, but she'd misunderstood the power dynamics. So what she'd written in was, okay, so Rosie's got a routine. Is it all right if I briefly say what the routine is? Yeah. She has a routine in which she wishes Ryan Gosling dead.
Yeah.
In order... Oh, some women haven't taken that well, have they? That's already gone over very badly, Rosie. We're going to get more letters of complaint now. On the basis that you want to have sex with his wife?
Yeah.
Who is...
Eva Mendes.
Yes.
Oh.
No, and so the end of the routine is... That's how gay I am. I'm so gay, I want Ryan Gosling dead. And it's a sort of whole imagination of Rosie going into the house and Ryan's dead and Eva's sad and, you're eating a yogurt naked?
Yeah.
And it's basically a sexual fantasy that's very, very funny.
I help her.
Yeah, no, you don't. You don't help her. You take advantage of a situation for your own sexual gain.
I help
No, okay, so now... So, what this listener, I understand why she felt it, but what she wrote was, if a man said that, you would not allow it, because it's about being opportunistic sexually, it's about wishing someone else dead. And I wrote back and said, I wouldn't platform a man on this show. I mean, really platform a man on this show. I could stop there. But if I did, it wouldn't be a man doing a routine about wishing Ryan Gosling dead so you could opportunistically shag Eva Mendes. And if a man did say that on the show, I would edit it out and I wouldn't publish it. But the reason that I think it's different is to do with power dynamics.
Yeah.
That you physically couldn't kill Ryan Gosling.
Yeah.
No, best that you say you couldn't, because if you want to work in America, so I think it's important you now say categorically that you could not and would not harm Ryan Gosling if alone with him.
Well, I wouldn't, but I could pay someone.
No, that's not. That's... Rosie, that's... Are you...
Answer me again.
Would you harm Ryan Gosling?
No. Yeah.
No. I can feel this listener typing her next email as we speak. But the history of the world means people like you i.e. women, and then add to that the marginalisation of disability, haven't gone around. I mean, think of one murder case where a disabled woman has killed or even harmed a non-disabled man. Now, there might be one, but we can't think of one collectively.
No.
So, unless anyone can? Aberdeen. Okay, I forgot I was in Scotland, and... Could you just please briefly give us the headlines of that story? Aberdeen in Australia. What? I'm so sorry, Australians stolen a lot of your names, but it's nothing compared to how Wales feels. New South, what? What was wrong with Old South? Aberdeen, Australia, what happened?
A woman who's disabled, she's mentally disabled, and she ended up killing her husband and beating him to her tomb.
Oh.
Okay. No, don't. That. Okay, Rosie's taken a note of that, and I don't know why. But that is very much an exception. And also, within the power dynamic of a couple, I don't know what the history of that story was. Most of the time, I believe the statistic is when women kill their intimate partner, it is generally in self-defense. Now, I agree that the feeding to the children does undermine that somewhat in this case. And I haven't looked into the details, but the headlines of this are, I think what you're doing is so important because a friend of mine texted me from Australia. He's not in show business or anything like that. He just messaged me and just said, I totally get it now. And he said, I always thought people with cerebral palsy were different from me. I wouldn't know how to talk to them. I'd avoid talking to someone with cerebral palsy. I thought maybe they were a bit more like children. He said, I just didn't know. I'd never engaged. I'd felt awkward. And he said, from listening to Rosie Jones so many times on The Guilty Feminist, he was like, I just get it. It's just me, but slower. Yeah. And I think I totally... He said, it's just completely made me reframe every assumption I've made about every disabled person I meet. And he said, I've just completely changed my attitude. And it wasn't coming from a place of aggression. It was coming from a place of fear of not knowing how to deal with it and saying something wrong. And he said, Rosie's made me understand. And I know a lot of that is how you are iconoclastic, you're highly sexual in your comedy, and you're transgressive all the time. And what you're saying is, I went out, I got smashed, I fell out of a nightclub, I picked somebody up, I went home, I wrote a really hardcore scene about Gillian Anderson that couldn't be used on network television even after The Watershed. And if you were just doing comedy the same way I was doing comedy, I don't think you would be doing the same thing for disability rights.
Yeah, thank you. And that's why I do what I do. And I feel like when I started out, I would do traditional mainstream jokes to get people used to my voice. But it wasn't my voice, it was a generic disabled person. And we're friends in real life, and I can be inappropriate.
I can confirm that. I've shared many green rooms with Rosie Jones, and the word that stands out more than any other is inappropriate.
But it's what makes comedy so exciting for me. It's the fact I go on stage and people pity me. People feel sorry for me. And I go, fuck you. I love who I am. If there was a pill to make me able-bodied, I wouldn't, because this is me. And all I'm doing is I'm speaking the truth, not for disabled people, not for women, not for gay people, and just speaking for me.
It's really amazing.
And that's why I wrote the Ryan Gosling joke. Because it's an interesting dynamic that all the way through, nobody guesses what I'm going to do. So,
They couldn't, no.
No.
And that's because their minds are less sociopathic. And I think that's... But you represent for sociopaths, and they're, you know, that's an underrepresented group in comedy. It's really not, it's really not. There's a lot of men got that covered, to be honest.
But, yeah, it's interesting, and it's something I deal with in this show. I'm telling you a secret now. But halfway through my show, I go up to a lady in the front row and I compliment her on her tits. And it always gets a laugh. And what I say to her is verbatim of what a guy said to me. And I found that very inappropriate. And my argument is, why do you let me say that? But it's not okay for him to say that to me. And that's all about this power dynamic.
Yes. And in the show you say, because you're not a threat.
Yeah.
Or you're perceived as not a threat.
Oh, am I?
Please welcome to the mic the incredible, the one, the only, the legendary Rosie Jones!
Hello! So you probably all know this now, but I am a triple threat. I'm disabled, I'm gay, and I'm a prick. The BBC love me. I'm disabled and I love being disabled because nobody ever wants me to babysit. In case I drop them and recruit them. It's a bit like a disability pyramid scheme. But growing up, I didn't let my disability get in my way. And my mum said to me, Rosie, you be whoever you want to be. Apart from a brain surgeon or a hairdresser. Or an optician. Or a pilot. Or of a train announcer. The train coming into platform 4 is the 1412. It's already gone. You have been so lovely. I've been Rosie. Bye-bye. Please welcome to the stage Deborah Frances-White.
So I just wanted to tell you a little bit of history about women and freedom of speech. I'm going to take you back to ancient Rome. And I'm going to tell you about a time that women used their freedom of speech. Now, in ancient Rome, women couldn't speak in the assembly. It was a democracy, but not for women. And of course, there were enslaved people in Rome as well, so there were other intersections of power, but no women at all could speak or vote or do any of those kinds of things. And so this is my favorite guilty feminist story about the women of Rome. It was around the year 2015, and it's hard to relate to... 215. 2:15. I was thinking about a night I had in Rome in 2015, and that was different. And I got an Airbnb. It doesn't... It was mostly me just watching Mad Men, to be honest. 215 BC. And it's hard to relate to times back then because they had a bloodthirsty government that had brought in some austerity measures. But nobody had anything. It was tough times. Public services were cut. It's difficult to relate to times back then. The austerity measures were brought in by an unjust war. And you think, I mean, times were so different because they were in togas. I believe the emperor was called Anthony Blairus. And this is true, it's true. I mean, the Anthony Blairus obviously is a lie, but everything else is true. There was a war and there was austerity measures brought in. So there were all sorts of things cut. Cut to 20 years later, 195 BC, and the men had all their stuff back. But the women were still suffering from a ban, and this is why it's a guilty feminist story, of not being allowed to buy luxury goods or dress up in colours and beautiful jewellery, especially the colour purple. Random, yes. Although women could not speak in a public forum, and although they couldn't vote and they didn't have any of those freedoms, when they said, "We take away your posh frocks," they went, "Enough." Too far, Roman Emperor, too far, Colosseum. And they came in from all over Rome and collected in an incredible women's march. Now, there were, of course, male allies. One of the male allies said, "Would you, in your refusal to revoke this law, allow the trappings of your own horse to be more splendid than the dress of your wife?" So, I mean, his argument's a sound one. Do you want your horse being fancier than your wife? See, hashtag not all men. Not all horses. Cato, the elder, quite famous back then, he was a big deal, said, "We have not kept our women individually under control, and we now dread them collectively." I feel we should somehow make a T-shirt of that. And so they all came in from all over Rome, and this is Livy recording. He's an ancient Roman historian, obviously a man because we remember what he said. This is his words. "The matrons could not be kept at home by advice or modesty or their husbands' orders, but blocked all the streets and approaches to the forum. The crowd of women grew larger by the day. Soon they dared even to approach and appeal to the consuls, the praetors, and other officials. And sisters, although it was said by Cato the Elder, heaven help us, we allow them even to interfere in public affairs, the Roman women nevertheless persisted, and in a spectacular political victory, the law was repealed. Thank you very much. Our guest today is a political comedian and satirist. She's a staple of late-night chat in the USA. She has her own show on Adult Swim called Soft Focus. She's here at the Fringe doing a show called Miscarriage of Justice. Please put your hands together and make excited woohooing noises for first-time Guilty Feminist. It's the incredible Jenna Friedman!
Oh, hi. It is so nice to be here. Before I start, it wasn't a necklace, it was a rusty hanger that I was posing with.
Was it? It looks like a really sexy necklace.
Yeah, it was a rusty hanger.
Okay, that tells a different story.
Yeah. I have a lot of abortion jokes.
Oh,
yeah.
Okay. We may have overstepped our sexiness in our pictures there. I didn't realize
It's funny, though, because I had a short-lived stint doing the sex column for like a men's magazine, and they used that photo and they airbrushed out the hanger. Yeah, and the stint was short-lived because like the guys would always like write in questions like, how do I get a girl to notice me? And all my answers were like, don't rape us, donate to Planned Parenthood. You know, I try. Anyway, it's really nice to be here. I hear you guys are really concerned about Brexit. I'm still trying to figure out what Brexit is. Is it like Fyre Fest for pensioners? Is Brexit like if your parents won't let you date that cute Greek guy because he has no money, so then you're like, I'm gonna date the responsible German guy, and then they're like, no, you're gonna fuck your cousin. Is that what Brexit's like? When I was in high school, a friend of mine and I went to get ice cream. It was a hot summer day. She ordered a vanilla soft serve cone. And the girl behind the counter, as she was making the cone, we saw out of the corner of our eyes the cone drip. And then she actually licked the drip. And then she handed the ice cream cone back to my friend with the visible tongue mark in it. And my friend asked her, did you lick this? And the girl said no. And then my friend just like took it and paid for it and ate it anyway. Is that what Brexit's like? I'm just picturing Deborah's woke guy friend listening and being like, women are just like us, only slower. It's really bad in America right now, politically. I don't know if you guys have heard, but this past year, for the first time in my life, I was like, maybe Sarah Palin should be president. And what made me think that was reading about Trump's administration drugging undocumented children in detention centers at the border because they didn't want to take care of them. This is real, it's heartbreaking. And my first thought was like, Sarah Palin would never do that. She would never drug undocumented kids. And the only reason I know that she would never drug undocumented kids is because she couldn't even give Bristol birth control. The Republicans in our country are pretty bad, but they're not awful. Like, they support women in some ways. They always pay for sex. They never get it for free. And they're like not against abortion. They'll even pay for yours if it's theirs. The best way to get the government to pay for your abortion in America is by sleeping with a married Republican. You might not even want an abortion, but if you fuck one of those married ones, you're gonna get it. Watch your drink, mistress, because he's gonna give it to you. The Republicans aren't like Nazis. The Nazis were way more organized. And Donald Trump is not like Hitler. Hitler served in his military. If anything, Trump is kind of like Bin Laden, just in the sense that they both use their daddy's money to fuck up New York's skyline. Thank you, guys. I'm Jena Friedman.
Jenna Friedman, everybody! Come take a seat. It's so great to have you on the show. We wanted to have you on the show for ages.
Oh, it's so nice to be here. You guys are so funny. I'm well, whatever. Okay.
No. How are you finding Edinburgh?
It's cool. It's nice. It's damp.
Yeah.
That we can offer. We can offer dampness.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
No, Rosie, no.
Soaking wet.
No. I mean, the problem with Rosie is she turns me into Mary Whitehouse. Do you know who Mary Whitehouse is? A British woman who tried to censor everything in the 1980s. And she was sort of like, stop, ban this filth. That's how I become when I sit next to Rosie Jones. I suddenly feel myself morphing into Mary Whitehouse. So tell us about your show, because your show is in part, it's about freedom of speech, isn't it?
Yes, our country is slipping into fascism, and I'm just trying to exercise my free speech while I have it, because it's going away. It's not a joke.
Can you feel it? Can you feel the effect in America at the moment? Where are the places where you feel that happening, that your own freedom of speech is slipping away?
I don't know I'm being a little hyperbolic, but I do think this is just kind of the nature of things. I think we're in a really precarious moment with our democracy, as you guys are too a little bit. And I think that a white nationalist being our president, it's really dangerous. Every time he has rallies, hate crimes increase in that county like 226%. This was in the Washington Post. And, he's attacking the press, he's attacking people of color, he's attacking undocumented people. I know this is like a comedy podcast.
No, we shift gears here at the Guilty Feminist all the time, don't we? Yeah. We love these conversations. Nobody's here going, where's the punchline? I'm getting nervous. They're really not. It's absolutely fine. Yeah. What my concern is, how do we deal with the fact that freedom of speech is misused by dominant powers? So, when he goes and does a rally, that is also freedom of speech.
It's hate speech. And I think we're really naive as a country because we don't understand the effects of hate speech. And there's this thing where it's free speech until it incites violence. Mm-hmm. And if your speech is inhibiting someone's ability to be safe, then that is not free speech. And I think that we kind of see things as black and white, but in Germany, they are doing something right in terms of how you're not allowed to brandish swastikas. They have, I think as a country, we haven't really had things in our recent past that have set the tone for our understanding of free speech. So I think it's...
Well, the dominant culture hasn't, because African Americans have. And indigenous people
look, we have skeletons in our closet, and I talk about that in the show that we don't even acknowledge. But I think there's a naivete, and partly because we don't acknowledge it, where we just underestimate, what free speech is. It's the same thing with our gun rights. It's the founders didn't put semi-automatic weapons in the Constitution. So it's if you look at things in with no nuance, you can make justifications for we have gun rights and we need free speech, but it's just not binary.
Yeah, the gun lobby there is absolutely astounding to me, because your right to bear arms, as absurd as that is in 2019, that anyone needs to bear arms, that was from a very different time and a very different political landscape, cannot, nobody needs an automatic weapon or a semi-automatic weapon. Nobody would need that under any justification. But it's just But you can build it up to a tank, and you have your own. The right to bear arms means I can have a nuclear weapon in my garden.
I think people with money are able to pay to influence other people's opinions, and that's kind of what we're seeing across the board with free speech and with all this kind of stuff. Money is influencing people's ability to kind of see things independently.
Do you feel, Rosie, that, because I feel like even within feminism, disabled women are so underrepresented and not heard from. We just don't hear those voices. How can we be better about platforming speech for disabled people and in terms of feminism, disabled women?
It's tricky because it taught me so long to get into comedy because I never saw disability in TV or on stage, and it really took me to go, well, if I'm not seeing it, I need to be it. And that took ages, but hopefully what I'm doing now is other disabled people, disabled women, gay disabled people will look at me and go, well, if Rosie can do it, I can do it. So hopefully it's now the start of change, but it's really getting diverse voices out there in the first place so that the next generation can see them and go, I'm gonna do that.
Presumably you were influenced by Francesca Martinez having a profile.
Yeah.
In terms of Trump's America and this kind of, I feel like we're at this weird point in history where it's almost like a Star Wars movie where there's been this uprising. You know, we had Obama, which was, and the Obamas in the White House were an incredible piece of representation. And, you know, listen, there are obviously issues there with foreign policy. I'm not saying Barack Obama is perfect by any means. In terms of representation, there was a shift. And I feel like it's like the patriarchy strikes back. So as women rise, I feel like Donald Trump is the manifestation of everything that feminism stands against. And I feel like now we've got this like mini-me in Boris Johnson who's rising up here. And he is a mate of Bannon's. And I know he does that goofy, oh, I'm coming out to give everybody tea, and oh, I've fallen off a zip wire again. But also, he's best mates with Bannon, and he's in a little triumvirate with Farage, and they have plans. And when I was on tour with the Guilty Feminist live show, there were times when I would look around the dressing room and I would just feel really like sort of frightened and sad inside, because I would think if fascism rises, or whatever the next version of fascism is, I would be the only person on the bill, because everyone else in the dressing room was a person of color or gay or both, or disabled, and I thought all my friends would be taken away, and I just had this like deep fear. I mean, I would too, because I'm an agitator, but not for my identity.
Yeah, I mean, I think Nazism benefits some. No, sorry. I think that we are in a moment where what's happening with like white nationalism globally is like a reaction to the fact that we're not going back. You can't put globalization back into the bottle. You can't put liberation of like women and people of color and disabled people back into the bottle. It's like the future actually is female. It's not just a t-shirt. The future is female, and then it's like robot. Like it's female for like maybe 10 years, and then it'll be robot. And so there's hope when we're all kind of subjugated by the robots. But I do think right now everything going on is like just a reaction to people feeling like they lose power. When other people achieve equality for the people empowered, it hurts more. And so, for thousands of years, white supremacy has reigned in like the quote unquote Western world. And now it's like, the Democratic Party, when it became a party of social justice, that's when the Democrat and the Republican parties in our country really, really split apart. Because prior to like the 60s, 70s, it was like all white men, even if some were like pro-union and some were, pro-privatization. But then when the Democratic Party became the party of social justice and civil rights, the Southern Democrats shifted to the Republicans. And so that's like really what it's about in our country. It's like this next election, are we gonna move forward? Or are we gonna move backwards? And you're right about Trump and Tesco Trump. They are the most, primitive, depraved human instincts. They are our fear centers, and it's like, are we gonna go back to that time, or are we gonna move forward? And I think there's a lot riding on the next couple years.
I agree. And I feel like we have to push, we have to galvanize, and we have to come together, because there are some countries now in Europe where it is illegal and punishable by prison sentences to save a refugee from the ocean. That is true. And people are up who have gone out in boats as humanitarians and picked a human life out of a sinking boat, who are now up to go to jail. Now that is right back to 1930s Berlin. So we have to stand up, but we have to galvanize other people who maybe think they're not political. We have to, because the world is going to slip away from us. But what we didn't have before and we do have now is the internet. We have ways to organize, we have ways to engage, inspire, find each other. And they can't really take that away without a huge deal.
But the internet is interesting because it is like so feminist. Like the Me Too movement happened because of the internet and its ability to like aggregate people's stories. But then at the same time, right now, Facebook and Twitter are really hurting democracy, and the people who run them are like allowing fake news to radicalize people. So we really do have to be careful about what we consume and who we talk to. And if you see someone who's kind of slipping, talk to them and try to bring them back into the fold, because it is, social media is also equally dangerous as much as it is liberating.
Yeah, and we're really going to need Scotland. Yeah. Because it is the most extraordinary, incredible left-wing socialised place, but in a joyful, collective, connected way. We love you, Scotland. Please don't leave. I know you probably want to, but if you do leave, I will not blame you. But I might come and live here. Go and see Jenna's show. Go and see Rosie Jones' show. You will not regret it. Both really important comedians. Can I have a big round of applause and a huge thank you for Rosie Jones and the incredible Jenna Friedman, and to sing us out and close this show with an incredible style, the way only she can. She supported us on our live tour and she absolutely smashed it every single night. Please welcome to the stage the incredible Jess Robinson!
Hey, thank you. So I do comedy and impressions and music and stuff, and I thought to close today's show, I would give you my girl power mega mix. Yes. I hope you will sing along in all the right places. It starts with one of my favourite songs from Mary Poppins. Hit it. From Kensington to Edinburgh, one hears the restless cry. From every corner of the land, womankind arise! Political equality and equal rights with men. Take heart, for Mrs. Pankhurst has been clapped in irons again. No more the meek and mild subservient we. We're fighting for our rights militantly, never you fear! So, ladies all across the world, listen up, we're looking for recruits. If you're with me, let me see your hands, stand up and salute. Grab your killer heels, sneakers, bombs, all lace up your boots. Representing all the women, salute, salute. It's who we are, we don't need no camouflage. It's a female federal, and we're taking off. If you're with me, women, let me hear you say, what you want, baby, I got it. What you need, you know I got it. All I'm asking is for a respect when you come home. Hey, baby, when you come home. Just a little bit. Mister, all together now. R-E-S-P-C-T. Find out what it means to me. R-E-S-P-C-T. Take it easy, be. Who run the world? Who run the world? Who run the world? Who run the world?
There's no one quite like Grandma, and I know you will agree. She always is a friend to you, and she's a friend to me. My hump, 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 my lovely lady love. Check it out.
I got the eye of the tiger, a fighter, dancing through the fire, 'cause I am a champion, and you're gonna hear me roar louder, louder than a lion, 'cause sister,
You have been listening to The Guilty Feminist with me, Deborah Frances-White, guest co-host Rosie Jones, and our very special guests, Jena Friedman and Jess Robinson. The recording engineer was Graham Steele. Music was by Mark Hodge. The producer was Tom Selinsky for The Spontaneity Shop. Thanks to Luke and Amy at Phil McIntyre and everyone at the Pleasance, as well as all of you for listening. For more information about this and other episodes, visit guiltyfeminist.com.